Hey guys, welcome to the Comic Den. I'm your host, Ace Knuckles, and it's time for our monthly reads. This is going to be for March, since we just had April today. Sorry, it's been a really long week. Last week I got real sick, and then we had Planet Comic Con, so I kind of fought through my sickness so that I could enjoy that. Anything for the comics. Sacrifice the body. Also, check it out. New cards made. They're pretty simple. Just the Comic Den, and then on the back it's got my Instagram. I decided not to go too crazy with it just because, all of it's the same. My Facebook, my YouTube, my Instagram. Got new cards in. Handed those out at Planet Comic Con up in Kansas City. Had a blast. I'm toying with the idea of doing a video about just all the stuff that I got. I got a couple prints, got a lot of stuff signed. And then I also got a chance to sell my new comic book, Magnus the Brave. So go check that out on Chris Rao's Etsy. It's called Magnus the Brave. So if you're interested in getting it, we're also hoping to have issue 2's Kickstarter going sometime in late May, early June, sometime around then. So yeah, get ready to check it out. So, monthly reads, as you know, I go through this alphabetically. It's not in order of how much I liked it. And then I just kind of give a little review of what I thought it was. First let's start off with Avengers. This story's been consistently good. And you can kind of tell that they're just sort of buying time until the War of the Realms starts. But they're doing it in a way that's pretty interesting. They're working Blade back into it, and I don't know if that's because now we have rumors that they're getting ready to remake the Blade movies, but, cross our fingers. I've also heard rumors that Wesley Snipes is going to come back as Blade, and it's going to be a full reboot. It's not going to be them adding on to that third terrible movie that they made. It's pretty fun to see Jason Aaron writing such an iconic character like Blade. I've never really read his comics. I tried to get into it, but then I just had other stuff that came up, other comics that I wanted to read. So yeah, if anybody out there is Blade comic fans, let me know. Let me know what I should start with, if I should start at the beginning, or if there's another story that's better that I should start reading. Let's move on. Next, we have Batman number 66. This is the variant issue. I have Batman number 66. I think I already read it, and then I wasn't sure if I had it or not whenever I went back to the comic book store. So I just picked the variant cover up just in case. But this one, the genius of it is that it's kind of weaving the past all throughout Batman's life with Catwoman, and I don't know. They're definitely exploring this whole thing with her leaving him at the altar and not showing up and deciding not to marry him. But they're scratching the surface saying, well, there is other reasons. It wasn't just that Batman can't be happy and be Batman. It seems like there's more to it, and I don't know, it's just intriguing. It's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of questions, not a lot of answers. And the way Tom King kind of bounces in between, well, Bane's been manipulating everything, and then Catwoman kind of wrecked Bruce Wayne's life. It kind of bounces back and forth between those stories, and I can't decide which one I'm enjoying more. I do like it whenever Bruce Wayne gets some development rather than Batman, but then I also like when Batman is being manipulated by Bane, and so I don't know, it's almost like there should have been two separate runs of comics, and I know you have that with Detective Comics and Batman, and then you have All-Star Batman, it's really interesting, and I'm really liking both sides of that coin, and I can't really decide which one I like more. Next, we have the Grim Knight, and tell me that's not an amazing variant cover. DC has just been killing it with the variant covers lately, and the Grim Knight, I was a little skeptical whenever I saw the Batman Who Laughs. I thought, oh, it's just been a popular character, and they're trying to cash in on it. I'm super skeptical when it comes to comics, but it's been so good. And then to even expand on it further and have another spinoff with the Grim Knight, and I know it's just a one-off, but they're definitely making it out to be like Batman's going to have this whole new rogues gallery of just different versions of himself, because it seems like the Batman Who Laughs has been like hoarding all of these other Bruce Waynes, both good and evil. And so, bodies have been dropping from the sky, but then all of a sudden we have a Grim Knight, we have the equivalent of like a Kingpin Knight, we have all of these different versions of Batman that we thought were gone forever whenever the Dark Multiverse was sealed off. But turns out that the Batman Who Laughs kind of had all of these guys stuck away just for, whatever occasion this is. Next, we have Doomsday Clock. And we're getting right there towards the end, and we're starting to see just how powerful they're going to make Dr. Manhattan. We knew he was powerful, but it's one thing to say, oh, he's, all powerful in the Watchmen universe. But then how's he going to be when he comes to the, DC universe? Is he going to be still as powerful? Are they going to nerf him? How is he going to interact with the other characters? And I think it's beyond what I expected. I'm glad that it hasn't been just like a knockout, drag-out fight. And unless in the next 3 issues they have that, it doesn't look like there's going to be one. I would think that if you're going to have a fight with Dr. Manhattan, it would need to be, longer than 3 issues. And especially the last 3 issues. The last 3 issues is usually where you start kind of wrapping things up. But it seems like this is going to be more of a politically based finale than like a big knock 'em, fight. It seems real interesting, and I kind of like the way it might be disappointing to some people, but I'm really into it. I'm liking the direction that it's going. Next, we have The Flash 65 and 66. And, these are coming off of, obviously we have the crossover series right here, and then we're getting into the Trickster, which I'm a little surprised that they're kind of going so hard on the Trickster. Again, at first, I had my doubts that they would be able to write a good story about it because, the Trickster, I don't know. I've never read much, to be honest, about the Trickster, but he seems kind of like one of the lower level villains, and they're really making him out to be kind of a force to be reckoned with. And I like that. I like that DC as a whole are taking some of these characters that are a little less known, and they're diving deeper, both with the heroes and the villains. I like that we got the backstory. I like that we kind of figured out where he's coming from. And I also like that during the backstory, they kind of work the Trickster motif into it, in that you think it's going to go one way and then it doesn't. So even we get tricked as we're reading along, as we're learning, and it kind of calls into question like, well, can we really trust what we saw, or should we look into it further? Should we just kind of wait and see how it pans out? Or it kind of forces you to start making assumptions, only to find out that maybe some of those assumptions aren't real. Next, we have Green Lantern, number 5. This story is starting to pull itself together. I had some people talk to me about it. They told me why they liked it. They said it was kind of a play on intergalactic, not quite buddy cop, but kind of that vibe where, it's almost like Lethal Weapon in space, where Hal Jordan is going around doing crazy stuff, and the Guardians are like, no, we can't do this. That's against protocol, blah, blah, blah. It does kind of have that 70s cop show vibe to it. I still don't know that I'm into it, but it's definitely getting a little bit better. I'll still probably drop it at issue 6, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. On the whole, it's not for me. But yeah, if you disagree, let me know. Next, we have Iron Man number 9. And again, this story has just continued to entertain. This story has continued to be fantastic. Yeah, I don't know. It's great because it's almost rebuilding Tony Stark, and from a literal sense, it's rebuilding Tony Stark. Tony Stark presumably died or disappeared, and then we find out that he completely reconstituted his body, and now he's having this existential crisis of whether or not he's human, whether he has a soul, whether he's a good person. And yeah, it's really interesting how they're going. And yes, he's fighting a villain, and yes, there's something going on, but at the same time, he's got to figure out exactly who he is and where he's at. And also, we have this whole Arno Stark thing that pokes in for an issue and then goes away. And then it comes back in for an issue and then it goes away. And I'm really interested in that. Also, the covers of these things have been amazing. If you haven't been paying attention, not even the variant covers. That was a variant cover that I showed you. But just the direct issue covers have been phenomenal. Next, we have Justice League Odyssey number 6. And here we find out that Darkseid has had a huge role in the universe, not just in the fact that he likes to periodically try to destroy it, but that he's been manipulating things forever and perhaps, trying to save it. But yeah, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Justice League Odyssey has taken a group of people that I cared nothing about, or that I actively disliked and avoided, and they're actually making them likable in my eyes. They're actually making them readable, and I'm starting to enjoy those comics. And for some of them, it makes me want to go back and read a little bit more. As far as Cyborg, it's, I've said before, I can't stand Cyborg. I think Cyborg Rebirth was garbage. I hated it. If you guys think differently, let me know why or why not. But yeah, I couldn't stand it. And I think Cyborg now in Justice League Odyssey, for one, he's not referencing football every 2 seconds. And for two, he's taking a leadership role in a way that's believable. And I really enjoy it. I can't say enough how well written this story is. And the payoff of, why everything was happening the way it was, I said would either be phenomenal or it would suck and we would all be disappointed. And I'm pretty happy with how this story arc ended, because it was kind of a soft ending. It wasn't like, boom, conflict over. It's one of those, yeah, this particular thing happened and these events are done, but it's definitely springboarding you directly into the next one, which is great, especially for a first run. I think that's very important to do so that you can get everybody emotionally invested in a bigger, more comprehensive storyline than just 6 issues, story done. 6 issues, story done. I really enjoyed it. So everybody should go pick up Odyssey. Next, we have Rick and Morty, and it's the interdimensional cable. There's not much to say about it. It is what it is, and it was what it was, and, it was pretty good. I am toying, complete honesty, I have been toying with dropping Rick and Morty, just because it's Rick and Morty, and Rick and Morty is Rick and Morty, and every time it's Rick and Morty, and for what it was real fun to read. I might pick up some of the one-shots, but having said that, every Rick and Morty is a one-shot. But yeah, it's I might just want to try something else out in its place. Not that anything's wrong with it, but this one was brand new. There it is. Darth Vader. This one was done by Dennis Hopeless, and honestly, I picked it up for the name Dennis Hopeless and that cover right there. It's a play on Frank Frazetta's cover of a Molly Hatchet album. Also, The Death Dealer. He took the cover off of there too. Yeah, and it's cool because from what it looks like, the story is not so much about Vader as it is about this little boy and everybody on this planet being impacted by Vader. And we'll see what issue 2 holds. But yeah, it's going to be real good. I've never been more captivated by a single issue when it comes to like Star Wars or Vader. All the Vader stories that I've read have been phenomenal. But this one is just such a different angle of how we're going to look at Vader as this savior rather than the destroyer. Even in, Gillian and Sewell's run on Vader, he's always been the bad guy. We rooted for him because we wanted him to do awesome things, but in here he's actually going to be worshipped as a god, and I'm really interested to see how this all plays out. Next, we have Action Comics 1008, and say what you will about Bendis doing Action Comics and Bendis doing Superman. Out of the two, I definitely enjoy Superman more, but Action Comics is kind of doing what I was talking about with Tom King and Batman, in that one covers Clark Kent and his family, the other covers Superman and what Superman does. So yeah, it's been super interesting, and I think it's okay. It's okay enough for me to keep reading. It's keeping me intrigued. I like to see where it's going. This whole red mist thing that's happening, and there's a couple of players who are off in the periphery that might have a bigger, role in everything. It's tough. I like Superman. I like Action Comics, but it's almost like I'm being impatient, and that's what I feel like. Is I'm just being impatient. I want the story. I want the shoe to drop. I want to know what's going on, and Bendis is kind of stringing me along. And not that it's a bad thing, as long as the payoff is good. How long did Jason Aaron string everybody along with Thor before he told everybody what was going on? Thor dropped his hammer and couldn't pick it up, and we didn't find out why for 3, 4, 5 years. It's one of those things. I don't mind a long game as long as the payoff's good. And I've read some of Bendis' work, and sometimes the payoff is phenomenal, and then sometimes it's not so much. Speaking of Superman, I've got Superman number 9, and this story is by far one of my favorites. Bendis is killing it with Superman. From all the worries and things that I have of Action Comics, Superman way outweighs it. And I think part of it is the development of Jonathan Kent. I was super upset when he aged up Jonathan Kent, because that means no more Super Sons. That means a whole new dynamic between he and Damian and the Teen Titans, or the Titans in general, or Young Justice, which Bendis is also writing. I just don't know where he's going to fit in the whole landscape. And, honestly, that's probably going to make the story even better. The fact that nobody does know where he's going to fit in. Nobody knows how he's going to interact with anybody else, or what impact Damian's going to have. Jonathan Kent was always second fiddle to Damian, even though Jonathan had all the powers. Damian picked on him. Damian made fun of him. He definitely took a subservient role in that relationship. Damian was always the leader. Well, now you have Jonathan Kent, who's 17 years old, who's experienced way more than Damian ever did. He's been out in the real universe. He's fought real danger, and he's come up against all kinds of craziness that Damian couldn't even comprehend. And so it's not just that his age is higher than Damian's now, his maturity is going to be much higher than Damian's now. And so I think that interaction is probably going to be one of the best that comes out of this. Speaking of Damian, we have Super Sons Adventure. And I almost think the fact that I know that this is over because Jonathan Kent is aged up is really making me enjoy this even more. It's just so much fun. There's not going to be any giant impact to it, but it's just such a fun adventure that they're going on. And it's serious, but there's funny parts, and it could have giant implications if the bad guys were to win. But it's just kind of, I don't know I don't know how to explain it other than it's one of the most fun stories I've ever read. And like I said, I'm going to be real sad to see it end. But I think it's also going out with the best possible ending that anybody could have hoped for it. Next, we have The Walking Dead. This is going to be our last one today. The Walking Dead 189. And, things just popped off. Like, things just went south real quick. And this is just the beginning. And I'm so excited to see where it goes. Rick's left with a big decision right at the very last page, and all we're left with is ... So we have no idea what's going to happen, which direction it's going to go, which direction he's going to take, because no matter what he does, it's got enormous ramifications. And he has been trying his hardest to avoid any sort of bloody conflict, because that's all they've been dealing with. I mean, it's just conflict after conflict after conflict. And here he thought he found some place where there wasn't going to be as much conflict. And what happens as soon as he shows up? Boom, there's conflict. So it's going to be real interesting to see where he takes this. I think the New World Order storyline kind of drug out a little bit longer than I would have liked. I get why they did it, because they had to establish everything. But I was expecting this issue to happen right after that New World Order mini-series came about. And, it didn't. So after the New World Order, it just kind of kept plodding along and growing and slowly developing. That's kind of how these things go, though. I mean, The Walking Dead doesn't really go on the regular intervals of 6 issues and then we're done, 6 issues and then we're done. It's just like, we're just gonna tell a story, and sometimes it's gonna have action in it, sometimes it's just gonna talk, but we're not gonna restrict ourselves to 6 issues for each story. We're just gonna tell it as it happens. And I really enjoy it. Sometimes it gets a little boring, but you know that it's gonna pay off in the end. You know that it's gonna be building to something great, because that's just how Kirkman writes. But well, that's it for March's monthly reads. So let me know what you guys think. Did you guys have a favorite read that you found this month? Did you like any of mine? Did you hate any of mine? Do you disagree with anything I'm saying? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you hit that like button. If you like this channel, please make sure you subscribe, and also hit that little bell for notifications. If you don't, you may or may not find out when I put these videos up. If you think any of your friends would be interested in anything that I have to say as I ramble for hours on this camera, tell them to like it, share it as much as possible. Again, you can find me at Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at The Comic Den. So, look for me there. Also, keep an eye out for Magnus the Brave #2, hopefully dropping sometime this summer. Bye, guys.